France 24. We're going to have a look at the daily papers now with Alison Sargent, who's on set with us. Alison, you're starting here in France. I knew that story that we mentioned in the news. Papers are really examining the government's response to Friday's brutal beheading of the history teacher, Samuel Paty.
Yeah, after some of the more kind of emotional tributes we saw in the papers yesterday, the question now has really turned to the government's response. On Monday, the French government carried out these mass raids on suspected Islamist extremists and also made sort of controversial threats to shut down Muslim organizations. Now, for left-wing Libération, it's a radical offensive against radical Islam. The paper warns in its editorial today that the government really risks overstepping legal boundaries, and they say that would be a huge mistake. The paper reminds readers that, quote, the law, like culture and education, is one of the essential antidotes to repression. Now, Libération's suggestion that the government is sort of casting too wide of a net can in part be explained by what we read in Croix today. They're talking about what they call the Islamist gray zone. They explain in their editorial that on one side they see kind of most Muslims who practice their religion peacefully within the boundaries of French laws, and then on the other side they say there are these individuals who are ready to commit violence in the name of their religion, and in between, of course, you have the gray zone, which is perhaps where you might place some of the people who expressed their indignation against the teacher Samuel Paty online, and ultimately did play a role in drumming up anger against him, even if these people didn't intend to actually commit any violence themselves.
Yeah, of course, the difficulty is determining which people, what groups are actually dangerous. It's very tricky, isn't it? And there's one group in particular, though, that's come under scrutiny, and this is the CCIF.
That's right. That's the acronym in French stands for the Collective Against Islamophobia in France. On Monday, France's interior minister called the group an enemy of the Republic and threatened to dissolve it. Now, as we read in Le Figaro, the group is accused of playing what some politicians have said is a troubling role in this attack. It's much kind of less troubling and more ambiguous, or maybe not even ambiguous at all, when you read about what they report. The group basically was contacted by one of the father of one of Samuel Paty's students. This is the father who has been arrested as part of this investigation. But as we read in the paper, the group says they were still in the process of examining the case and never actually took any action. So yeah, all they did was they were solicited, basically. But Le Figaro, you can tell in this article that Le Figaro is not totally convinced. They also list out actions the group has taken in the past that the paper, Le Figaro, which is right-wing, finds problematic, including being part of the insurgents, as they say, against France's laws surrounding the veil. And that, Stuart, really brings us back to this idea of a gray area, because there actually is a very real debate in France about the veil and ways in which maybe France's secularism laws maybe apply unevenly to different religious groups. And the difficulty in sort of agreeing is illustrated in today's cartoon by CAC in L'Opinion. Macron there is saying, we need to draw up a common vision. And this Muslim man responds, well, that depends on what drawing. And we see behind him a copy of Charlie Hebdo with a knife in it. Now, I found that even this drawing is a little bit ambiguous. It seems to be suggesting that this man is an extremist. Maybe he just doesn't appreciate Charlie Hebdo and isn't that allowed.
Exactly. Difficult to know where to draw the line, isn't it? Let's move from the French to the British press now. The papers in the UK, they're reporting on a thwarted Russian plot to hack this year's Olympic Games.
That's right. This was this year's games that were supposed to be held in Tokyo over the summer, but were postponed due to the coronavirus pandemic. As we read on the front page of The Times, this hacking attack was thwarted by the UK. The paper writes that the UK also thwarted similar attempts to disrupt the 2018 Winter Olympics using malware that would have wiped computers of data and ultimately paralyzed the competition. Now, according to both The Times and The Guardian, this was essentially a revenge attack for doping allegations. In an analysis piece, The Guardian's former Russia correspondent, Luke Harding, writes that Vladimir Putin is clearly furious about the fact that his country has been excluded from international competitions. He writes, quote, rather than cleaning up Russian sport, Putin seems determined to continue the role he has perfected in recent years, that of global spoiler and disruptor.
A little bit more cleaning up now from Alison. We've had Russian sports, but this story is about a town in Quebec that decided to clean up its name.
That's right, sir. This was the community of Asbestos, named for the mineral now known to be toxic in the mines that the town has nearby. The new name is not only less carcinogenic, it's also French. You can see it there, the Val-des-Sources, or the Valley of the Springs.
That sounds nicer.
I know, it is much more pleasant. Better images in the mind.
Yeah,
it was voted voted by the locals after much debate. Some of the other options that I liked were Phoenix and Trois Lacs. So I guess we have lacs as well as springs, lakes as well as springs. Anyway, as Le Journal de Québec explains, the name change is set to be formalized in December. The mayor of the town said he thinks it will make a very nice Christmas present for everyone.
Dusting off the old name and giving a new one to take its place. Thank you very much. Alison Sargent with the papers up France 24.